Okay, so just to give you a quick intro about my professional work, I'm currently working as a lead AI engineer at AWTG. Sorry, I think, yeah. So the biggest problem we see when we build agent and, sorry, please, but.
Sorry to interrupt. Is it okay if we can take pictures of this?
Absolutely, absolutely. 100% you can take pictures. So to make a POC using coding agent, it takes literally 5 minutes or 10 minutes basically at the moment. So easy because we use Claude, Copilot. I mean, very less people use it, Copilot, but people use Cursor, etc. Different kinds of multi-agent coding tools. But to build it and scale it to production, we have a lot of troubles that we usually face while building these AI agents. And there's a lot of issues that we see from compliance part also, because LLM being non-deterministic in nature, it becomes very difficult to scale it to production. So so we are trying to see how we can blend an LLM's solution to a production grade enterprise architecture basically. So how do you pick an LLM? Because there are a lot of LLM provider, Gemini, Gemma from Google, right? There's a lot of models, and every week if I talk about a model today, after a week or so you will be telling, oh, that's outdated, right? And there's a very competitive phase that we see. So how do you pick an LLM is the first stage. Second is making the model aware of your data. So we talk a lot about harnessing, right? Have anyone heard about harness? Yeah. Now I think harness is the word of 2026. They say last year it was context engineering, and before that it was RAG and all those things, right? So we see that the harnessing of the model, basically, how do you basically provide right context to the model in right time, is one of the most trickiest thing and one of the most difficult engineering work that we have to do while we are building agents. And picking an application framework, right? Although I represent LangChain, it's not necessary that you have to choose any framework, or you have to choose LangChain or any other framework as such. Some solution may require you to build things from scratch, while some solution may require you to basically quickly use these kind of libraries to build solutions. So I'll give an example. Let's say you are a consultant working in a big four, let's say, giving an example, and your client says that you have to build a prototype in next 3 days, right? Now in this case you can just quickly use deep agents, maybe from LangChain or other tools, other providers, right? You can use QA for multi-agent, and you can just show to your client that, okay, this is how we can build maybe a chatbot or a reporting system which uses agentic AI, etc. So in those kind of scenarios, yeah, you can definitely use frameworks and quickly do it. But in some scenario, with frameworks, there are also bottleneck. You are dependent on those kind of frameworks. So tomorrow, if you see there's a vulnerability in that framework, you are also affected by that. So we need to make sure that you keep that in mind. Choosing the deployment strategy. Now this comes, this is a very important one actually. We use different kinds of model provider. Now if you choose Azure, Azure has AI Foundry, and I think Google recently moved from Vertex AI to Google Agent Enterprise or something. Does anyone remember what's that?
Google Enterprise Platform.
Yeah, Google Enterprise Platform. So the technology is moving so fast, so the strategy on how you basically deploy is very important, and it also depends upon the kind of model and model provider that you are dealing with. Let's say if you're working with Google-based model, then you may choose certain cloud platform and so on. Now this is a very difficult part, which is scaling your application. Now there's two different things that will face issue while you are scaling it. Okay, one is you are scaling your application, which is already a tricky part because your user base is increasing, and other scaling is about the model provider, because see, your providers may have rate limiting. Does anyone understand about rate limiting? I think you're good, right? Perfect. So those kind of unknown hurdle now would be coming to in your deployment and scaling strategy, because now you have to think about how these model provider handle all these scaling issues and how your application is also. Now you have two things to worry about your application and also the models, two headaches that you have to worry about basically. So yeah, this is how I'm going to go ahead with this particular slide. How do you choose, how do you pick a LLM basically? So first thing is to look into different providers. You have to get up to date with how different kinds of model behaves. For example, there are reasoning models and there are general purpose models. So what does your business wants basically? That's the basic thing you have to understand. Do I need, today recently if 5.4 comes, GPT 5.4 which is provided by OpenAI, let's say it comes, and should I have a latest model? Not necessarily, maybe, right? Your use case may require you to use a cheaper model and more, maybe the sophisticated model may not be required, right? So that is one thing you have to see. Other important thing is to see leaderboards. Let's say you want to use open source LLM. Now, if you are dealing with finance domain, healthcare, and let's say military and sensitive domains, which has a very difficult compliance. So for these kind of domains, we may have to use open source LLM. So that time you may have to use different LLM, and different country provides different kind of LLM. For example, Coin, there are other Mistral, and also there is GPT OSS, etc. Right? So you may have to choose it very efficiently according to your use case, and also the licensing terms, which are very important. Okay. So I usually, when I choose an LLM, I try to see the leaderboards. So for example, I check Hugging Face leaderboard to see which LLM are actually trending. There's LM of testing strategy they are using, evaluation strategy for LLM related to coding and other general purpose. So your use case is the most important thing. And one very funny thing that I want to tell, because AI agent is in hype and everyone is talking about it, we try to make sure that AI agent is in the picture, but some use case may not require it maybe. So it's very important to assess as an engineer or as a solution architect or consultant, etc. You may have to think carefully whether do I need an agent. So my take is I try to see in the opposite way. I try to always put agentic solution at the end. If it really needs it, then only I try to build agentic solution. And we have successfully actually, in our company, we are able to at least productionize one agentic solution at the moment, which was already a headache. It took us maybe like 1 to 2 months to build the POC, basic structure, and it took 7 to 8 months to make it productionized. So you can understand the kind of complexity that we have to go through. Okay, I'm going to speed up because we have other speakers as well, but I'll give you a quick overview about how basically you can make model aware about your data basically. So first thing is data engineering. It's very important. If you are working with an agentic AI solution, then that may not be case entirely, but if you are building an RAG system or any other context engineering on top of it, this may be one of the important things to put in your mind. Evaluate the safer data. Okay. So evaluation is like a unit testing, okay? How software engineering sees unit testing, you have to see evaluation in that way. Like everyone talks about it, but you need to go in nitty-gritty of it. What exactly are we evaluating? There's 3 things that comes in the evaluation part. One is the groundedness, whether the source that you are trying to check is actually citing the right answers or not. That's one thing. Second thing, if you are building an agentic AI solution. Now, in a RAG system, I hope everyone have heard about RAG because it's been a long time, so I'm not explaining it. But in a RAG system, you may use, groundedness, trustworthiness, and all this privacy check as a system, right? But in an agentic AI solution, the evaluation strategy is a little bit different. You may have to check the steps that the agent is taking because it is taking multiple steps, right? It is deciding. Let's say most of you have used Cursor and Cloud. Now, it knows when to use a grep command to find and search your files. It knows when to execute those commands. Now, if that, let's say I'm working at Cursor, right? I want to understand the steps that it is taking. So you need to evaluate the tool calling that it is doing because it has fairly not more than 4 to 5 tools. If you hear, there's a very interesting, a podcast, which is one of my favorite, by Manus. I think most of you know the company, right? If you hear the talk from Manus about harnessing, agent harnessing, they actually started with 15 to 20 tools, and guess what? They reduced it to 4 to 5 tools. Like they only use grep and basic tools because you have to understand that agents are built on foundational model, which is a machine learning model at the end of the day, right? It's the neurons basically. there is no deterministic structure in it. So yeah, that's one thing we have to keep in mind while we are evaluating the data and evaluating our LLM basically. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, choosing a appropriate transformer model. This is one example of the benchmark. It's outdated. I had very less time to just present it. I literally presented it right now, so I didn't update it. But you can see this benchmark. This is one example. Yeah. So have you heard about embedding models? Can anyone tell about what is embedding model? If you want to raise your hand and tell anyone. Okay, please.
So in a very simple term, embedding model basically takes your information, your natural language, converts it into a format that could actually then be ingested into vector sort of database to then separate in terms of the spatial element. So a simple way to think about it is if I'm reading a legal contract, it has a lot of clauses. It
Right.
has clause which refers this to something else, that are parties. It just allows the information to be actually stored in a format where it's got dense clusters. So if somebody is used to KNN and those sort of machine learning algorithms, I think it becomes...
Sure. I gave an interview and someone asked me the same question, okay, what is embedding model? And I told them that, if you do an open book test and if you don't know the answer, when you go to the page number and try to find out particular text, now the embedding model, in this case the embedding model is that text which I didn't know earlier, now my mind knows it, my brain knows it, because I went there, I understood and I took it. In this case, embedding model basically means that it converts your text into vector representation, because machines, it doesn't understand words, it understands numbers, right? So we have to use embedding model usually in RAG systems when we are using, if we are considering using vector databases. So these are recommended way to consider about embedding model, but I will not go much in detail due to the time constraint. Yeah, so fine tuning also is one of the concept which may be useful. So if you want to give some specific characteristic to your model, which is tailored to your particular use case, you can fine tune a model, but it's not necessary all the time. Sometimes RAG may be a better solution over fine tuning. Yeah, this is a tricky part. So I go through this almost whole day. Like in different projects, we have to go through this solution when I'm working with LLMs. So hallucination and half-truth is one of the biggest problem, because the model says that it's perfect, but that's not the case when we investigate it. So we try to use all of the different. Okay, I'll tell you one very important concept actually. There's something called as ISO IEC 42001. Which is AIMS, basically AI management system, which can be a very good way to manage agentic AI and AI system, where you can use different strategies from that particular framework, which can help us to basically fight hallucination and all this half-truth. You can read about it actually when you go. It's a really comprehensive one, and it's recognized by a lot of companies as well.
What was it again?
It's called as ISO IEC 42001. Like how you have ISO IEC 27001 for data protection, something, I forgot that one, but yeah. The same thing for AIMS, there is one, you can actually look into it. Okay, I'll speed up. So these are some of the vector databases, and yeah, so there's something called as in my machine learning we had something called as hyperparameter tuning, right? If you remember, in traditional AI system also, which is it also have a lot of parameters which you can fine tune according to your use case. For example, temperature, top P, top K, etc. So you can use these temperatures and all these parameters to make your system robust according to your requirement. Let's say if I want to work for a company which allows me, which wants to create poems and all those things, which is more creative, I'll try to increase the temperature. How I remember this is when the temperature increases, means let's say in my body, temperature increases, I feel like not good, right? Same thing. When temperature increases in the LLM also, the randomness increases basically, which cause the response to be very, very random. So if I'm writing a poem, I may use really unique words in those. But if I'm writing an email, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure my managers are happy. right? So yeah, that's one of the parameters. But there are other parameters which you can look into, like top P, top K, maximum penalty. You can penalize the model basically on the token repetition, etc. So that's also one thing that you can do. This is about choosing an application framework. If you decide to choose one, we have a lot of frameworks, and every day there's a new repo with hundreds of stars that we see because the space is moving very quick. But if you want to build an agentic AI solution, I think LangChain has a lot of things that they're offering, that we are offering. So for example, if you want to build an agentic AI system, there is, what is that name which you told me? I always forget. Deep agents, yeah. Deep agents, and also you can use LangGraph also to build agents by yourself. But deep agent, they have already built everything for you. You just have to, use it as a like a wrapper, basically. Okay, so this is, I think, key framework that I have showed quickly. If you want to take a picture, it would be helpful for you later on if you are interested to, explore about different kinds of framework to use in your system. Okay, I hope you have taken the picture. I can go back.
Can you move that on?
Sure, please. Perfect. Last few slides, guys. Up. Okay. So these are all other deployment strategies which you can use. So if you are deploying in on-prem, you need to make sure you have GPUs. Usually, startups and small companies who doesn't have a huge requirements and a lot of data, they actually starts with API providers and companies which want to use, nowadays there's a lot of open source LLM, right? So if there's no licensing issues, for example, I think Qwen, they don't have licensing issues. You can fine tune your model and use GPUs. Right now in my workflow, I use Qwen embedding models because of some compliance issues. So that's one thing that I have done for on-prem. You can also self-host manage. You can also use self-host managed services. So if you know Azure AI Foundry, they have option to fine-tune a model as well. They have option to use their API. So the difference between you using ChatGPT Enterprise, so ChatGPT has different kind of basically services for the personal people like us who just want to chat and have a basic conversation. They have some tier, and there is ChatGPT Enterprise. Let's say you want to scale to thousands and thousands of users. Then there's different kinds of tier. But let's say you don't trust them, you can use cloud providers and use their services, which is still using the same kind of model. But one funny thing which is an insight that I got to know, if I use GPT 5.1 from ChatGPT Enterprise, and if I use Azure GPT 5.1 from Azure, I see the difference in the model because they update the version as well. Even the model is same, they keep on updating the version. So that's something you'll see when you actually deploy to production. Okay, I think there's few slides. Yeah, I'll just go ahead with the key takeaways. So first thing is choosing the defaults. So make sure you choose the right LLM. Second thing, very, very important. I know everyone talks about it, but it's so important. Building observability in your system. Now, observability in your system from end to end. From the time, if you are building an agentic solution, the time a question is asked by the user till the point the execution of the agent is completed. Every step that agent is taking, you need to have observability at application layer, infrastructure layer as well, so that you can understand why the system is not performing with respect to latency, cost. These are the two major things that, and performance, the third thing that we need to be very careful about while we are building an AI solution, which you want to see it used by millions of people like us, right? This is third point we have to think about a little deeply is treating AI deployment as software engineering, right? I stress this a lot. AI engineering is software engineering. Just there's one more thing, that is LLM or voice-based system, etc. But deep down, it's still software engineering. And as a developer, usually we forget about policies and ethics because our mind is so much focused about delivering features and building an innovative things. But still, if you think about user policy and ethic guides, a lot of work can be saved and you can deploy Establishing an AI guild is also very important. And one thing I would like to suggest is for non-technical team in your company, I would suggest that you start teaching them how to use AI. Even today, actually, one of my colleagues came to my desk and he was asking, how do I do this? I said, right, install Cursor and just put this file and just ask it to update it. That's it. So you can just share it, because by sharing you learn, and that's what I'm doing today. Thank you so much, everyone.